This week on the podcast, we're celebrating 30 years of PlayStation and how they built a globally recognised brand, their evolution into gaming industry leader, and the consoles, games and legacy that have defined generations of players. And on this week's Pixel Picks Showdown, we name the best PS3 game. All this and more on the Pixel Parents podcast. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Pixel Parents podcast, the show that discusses all things gaming from the perspective of parents. I am your host Liam Kirk-Kelvin, and today I am of course joined by the bearded one, Scott, the tastemaker. Curry, how are we, Scott?
I'm fine. I've basically sailed over here in the rain, so
That's it, boat season,
boats and hose. But apart from that and having dried out, I feel I'm here for it. I've had a terrible week for sleep.
Yes.
Possibly the worst week I've had in a while. I feel like I've regressed back to like 16-year-old Scott.
Oh God.
But it's like I just don't sleep anymore, which is mildly disappointing and annoying. But apart from that, I've had a week of it, so I'll tell you all about that soon. But I think if there's anything I need to say, but there's no. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's been a busy week. You know, house is for sale. Kind of living in that eternal state of just. We've had a couple of days without some viewings. Got another one tomorrow. Just got to get things like cleaned up. Pretend that nobody lives in it.
It's
Does
the worst.
my nutting.
It is the worst.
Does my nutting.
Selling your house should be easier, but it's just like the worst part of it is you have to take them round. I know you can get the people to do it, but it's just like, oh, and then they need to come and you need to deal with them again.
Exactly.
But taking the people around being like, yeah, it's like an episode of Cribs when you walk into your bed and be like, this is where the magic happens.
That's what happened the other day. I was like, walked in and I was like, so this is the kitchen. I was like, I don't know what else to say. Like,
I cook stuff in here.
So, you know, there's a fridge.
This is the toilet. This is where I do all my massive shits. Like,
The throne. You know, no, it's just been that constant state of things. And like, we had a viewing that came out of nowhere at 3:30 and I was still working and I had to drop everything. Luckily I've got flexible working, so I had to drop everything, clean, do the viewing, then pick up work again in the evening, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, we'll just keep my fingers crossed. I think we're after heat selling this time of year, but everybody keeps telling me, you know, if the buyer's out there,
no good time to sell. And what they're saying, this is economic chat now.
That's it.
They're saying that the market is strong at the moment.
Buoyant.
House prices are pretty good for where they are right now. So maybe not probably not a good time to sell, but you know, economically, possibly a decent time to sell. I still think anyone that buys a house in this market is fucking mental.
Oh, I know. Just
with the mortgage rates and stuff, you're bending over and getting fisted by the Bank of England, even though we're living in fucking Scotland. But yeah, I'm not smart enough for like economic and the markets and mortgages and stuff. I've got an eToro account that I randomly put money into that Dogecoin years ago, and it's now worth £50. And I put like a couple of quid in it a few years ago and just been building it up and building it up and building it up.
See, the closest I've ever been to being an economic wizard was, and I mean, like, I was shit hot at it. You could have made like Wall Street a modern version, but with me, and it was me playing the drug selling minigame in GTA Chinatown Wars. I knew that thing. It was like a fine art, man. I was just like raising all the cash. I was like, come at me, it's cool.
Love that shit.
Basically, if real money was like drugs and GTA, then I would be absolutely flying right now. But hey ho.
I mean, the amount of money you amass in GTA is quite incredible.
Yeah,
which I'll get into very soon, because some of the stuff you have to do in the games that I've been playing this week is frightening. But it's been funny listening to you dealing with it all and like having to go through it, because I've done it twice. No, in fact, I've done it twice, and I wouldn't do it again in a heartbeat, because it's just a pure pain in the arse, especially with kids. Like,
well, that's it. You got to pretend they're not here, and then also I have to say the most stressful part of the whole thing is a dog.
Yeah,
Like, he's just a pain in the arse. Like, I love him to bits, but he's a pain in the arse. Like, I have to arrange where the kids go and where the dog goes. Oh, God. But yeah, I'm still finding time to squeeze in some gaming. And of course, we've got lots to talk about. So, yeah, strap yourselves in for more gaming chat. That's the end of the economic chat, we promise. But before we get into it, we should do some housekeeping, get that out the road first. So, for those listening, this is the Pixel Parents Podcast, the weekly podcast by parents who game for those who do the same, where each week we discuss all things gaming whilst raising little ones. If you want to be part of the podcast, come say hello and share your thoughts with us at pixelparents.bsky.social on Blue Sky, or write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear and you want to support the show, you can leave a 5-star review or share the podcast online with your friends. That really helps us out. And of course, thank you to everybody that joins us each and every week. So with that out of the way, Scott, what have you been playing this week, good sir?
Good sir. I have been continuing on my journey through the Grand Theft Auto series. And when we finished here, the last time we recorded, I went home, couldn't sleep. So I finished Grand Theft Auto 3. Nice. Finally got that sucker out of my life. I moved on to Vice City. And honestly, it's like, you know, staring at the same wall your whole life, and then somebody puts in a window. It's like, oh my God, there's colour in this world. There's humanity. There's personality. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is just Tommy Vercetti. All those things, just a beautiful, beautiful man. But I've kind of made no bones about it. I've said this before, and I'll say it. I'll shout it from the rooftops if necessary. But Vice City is my favourite Grand Theft Auto game.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just the story and the city itself is just, it's a total main character in itself. Like, if you try and think of the map in Grand Theft Auto 3, you remember parts of it, but not at all. You could probably walk through, like, you could if I could ask you directions to how to get from one area in Vice City to the other, and you could probably tell me how to do it, no bother. It's so memorable.
That is. I could also draw the map in the back of a 2-pence piece, but there you go.
But still, like, it's still full of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's a bloody lot of it. So I started the week off, done the first mission where you obviously drop off Rosenberg, and then you go and meet the guy in the boat. Is it Cortez or whatever his name is?
Cortez, yep.
And then drop everything. Don't forget about all your missions and start just doing all the collectible stuff. So, is it Prawn Island, the first island?
Yep.
Go and collect all your hidden packages, go and do all your unique jumps, go and do all the RC missions, the races, everything you possibly can do. And then you're ready to take on some missions.
So, is it to get a window into the requirements of your journey? Is it basically you have to just 100%?
100% the game, basically.
Okay, right.
With a couple of sort of mission based, like a sort of mission based trophies.
Right.
So there's one, like one of the first few missions that you do for Carrington is you go to the golf course and like, kill the guy there. So you have to do that with a golf club.
Right. Okay.
So it's like,
that's quite tough. Actually.
It's hard to do it, but the best way to do it is that if you go and finish the paramedic mission. So if you do 12 paramedic missions, you can run without stopping.
Right, okay.
So you can just run up to the car, pull them out and scud them with it, and then that's you're done. So it makes everything significantly easier. And see, if you'd known that back in the day, your experience of playing this game would be wildly different.
Yeah.
Doing, I think it's like 20 vigilante missions. And by the time you're doing that, you're up to like level 5 wanted level. So it's like, oh my God, I can't do this like with my police car. So you go and get the Rhino. So you collect 100 hidden packages to collect the Rhino, get the Rhino from the army base, go and do the vigilante missions, and you just plough through every car on the road. It's hilarious. It's so daft and so fun. But it's just given me this appreciation for what this game was and what it was doing at that time. Like, see the jump? It's not a massive jump in terms of the gameplay, as I've said before, because that's my hot take. It's not a huge jump, but what it's doing in terms of what it's improved on from 3 is astronomical.
Yeah.
Being able to actually fly something, like, you know what I mean, and land it and actually take it up into the sky is fantastic. But you know, when I'm playing it, there's not a moment in it like with 3, I'm like, going to just hurry up and end. Like, I'm just enjoying all the intricacies of the wee characters and stuff like that, like Lance Vance, Kent Paul,
Danny
as Danny Dyer, right? I've started doing all the stupid missions with like the pole position club, like the Malibu club. I've done the one with the ice cream van. So I've done that. I've done all those. I've collected all the cars for the import export missions as well. One of the funny ones is like I think level 3 in that just wants you to collect sports cars. And every single one of them basically were in a line outside the auto place. I just went out, grabbed them, put it back in, outside, grabbed them, put it back in. But honest to God, I've had such a laugh playing this. Like, I'm going to be gutted when it's over because it's just been a total ride. It's been great. But I think when I look at it, like, I think I've only got a few trophies left to do for it, and it is just mission based. I've done all the collectibles that I can do. There's a couple of jumps that I haven't done because you have to get that in the movie director parts. So one of the ones in that, I think you're doing like a promotion for it, and you have to do like a motorbike thing.
Yeah, I remember that mission well.
So there's a couple of trophies in that where you can't fall off the roof, which I will. So you'll have to restart, and that's the one thing where this is the point thing with it is amazing. Like if you fail a mission, it doesn't tell you to go back to the mission marker and go all the way back to the actual mission itself. It just says, would you like to go back to the checkpoint and start it again where you started the mission? So it's like, it's just wee things that they've improved with these additions and stuff like that. But it's just been great. And I'll say this is a hot take, but this definitive edition version of Vice City is significantly better looking than the original. And I mean, in every single way. I think Tommy looks 100 times better. I think the city, like I was driving through it, was it last night, and it's just the sun was setting. I had this sort of sheen on my car, just the sky hitting off the car and the sky and stuff itself. You could see helicopters in the distance and stuff, and I was like, "Fuck me, this is just what it's all about." Like, and I've not mentioned it yet, but the big thing in this whole game. And I'd say is the shining star of the whole game is the soundtrack. Oh my God. There is not one station, apart from the chatting stations, but you could get away with them, but there is not one station that I hate. Like, I've listened to all the Spanish music, because one of the challenges, one of the trophies is that you have to listen to all the radio stations at least once.
Right, okay.
But it's not just flick through, is that you have to sit for an extended period to listen to them. So when I'm doing like 100 taxi journeys or whatever it was, just
flip between
them, and oh man, like I can see this has just been the window to the point where I've realised where all my music taste comes from.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that if San Andreas will also hit me the exact same way, and then we'll have I'll have to deal with 4 all over again, and then get to the juice.
The thing that I fear for you is the San Andreas also been a fantastic game as well, continuing that momentum, but it's the scale of it and doing all these miscellaneous things. It'll be tough. I know you'll be able to do it because obviously it's just the same thing, just on a bigger scale. But it's just like if it does take the wind out your sails, and I hope it doesn't, because it's like
it won't. Trust me, it's so easy to do it. Just get the vehicle for it, get the music on, and just go. It's been class. Like there's things in these games that I've just never seen before.
100%.
It's wild, and like I can play the game like with the vigilante missions. You can get 150 body armor, and I think it's like either the firefighter one and one of the other ones that gives you 150 health. So you're basically just got like a little extra time and a little extra health to deal with stuff. And my God, honestly, just see the daft wee things that I've just been walking about, like reading the stuff on the signs, actually listening to the shows on the radio and stuff as well. Like some of the stuff they're saying, it's like when this game came out, you're thinking that, and like this is like a total, like just a strange version of America that they've built up in these radio stations, and you listen to it now, and it's like that's actually what we're living. Like it's exactly the way it is now.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I've only ever 100%ed one GTA, and that was GTA 5. After we graduated, because Lord knows I had time in my hands. But I am really, really intrigued and excited to see how they approach Grand Theft Auto 6, because they've, as you mentioned there, they skewed the core of GTA is to kind of skewer American society. And like you said, things have just become so batshit upside down. You know, what's wrong is right, what's true is false, what's false is true, and it's like, how do they approach that?
Mm-hmm.
How do they release GTA 6 without there's a female protagonist in there and the usual woke nonsense, the grifters on YouTube? Rockstar have ruined GTA. You can write it yourself because the grift is stronger than it's ever been. But if there's one person that could, I think, to cut through from a pop culture standpoint,
if there's one people
the
who
whole
want
grift
you can
culture,
do it.
they could do it.
Yeah.
Laser focused. Now, remains to be seen, but I'm excited for you because I have got such a soft spot for GTA 4. Like, I think that is one of the most detailed worlds they've ever done, and I think it's dead easy just to be like, oh, I didn't really like it, but I'm like, no, don't talk ill of it. There's a reason.
Speak ill of 4. I've not played it for a very long time, so I honestly couldn't even tell you what happens in the story. I just know that you think your cousin always wants to go bowling, and that's literally all I know about it.
Yeah. It's a fantastic story with Nico Bellic and that, and they presented choices.
Yeah.
And it was all around basically the morality effectively of the choices. But if you appreciate the things, the signs and the radio stations and stuff, GTA 4 probably does it better than a lot of the other ones have done. And I think that was when you started to see that side of Rockstar building these dense worlds, and there's so much detail in GTA 4. It's crazy. And especially, like, you just feel like you just have to live in that city for a bit. That version of Liberty City, it's dark, it's grim. It's, from a time and place where Nolan had made everything grim dark. But no, I'm excited for you, man. I think, and then by the time, I think you might have the same experience after 4 going back to 5, because it's like, wow, like sunshine, colours,
colour, and yeah, I'm excited to do it. It's just nice playing, like, actually having purpose.
Yeah.
And something, like, playing something with an actual purpose in mind. Like, obviously played Dragon Age, and it's not with a purpose to actually, like, play it and enjoy it. It was just to finish it so I could talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just been nice to just sit down and actually enjoy a game that I've not played for, like, an age. So, it's been cool. And that's it.
Is that all you've been playing this week?
I've been playing a lot of Balatro as well.
That's game of the year.
Do you know, the more I think about it,
honestly, mate,
the more I think about it, and still playing Stardew Valley with a little one.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. That is beautiful. Even though watching our water plants it might destroy me, but otherwise it's been great.
Excellent.
And there you go. That's my week in review.
Excellent. Well, I'll kick off my week. I'll start with the kid. So my son is still now playing the Switch on his own. I'm at the windy. He's discovered the portable mode. I don't need you, Dad. I can figure this out, so he says. So he's been playing a lot of that. The Switch is still in a persistent midden, which does my head in, but he's quite happy just hopping between Super Mario Wonder, and he wants to play like Luigi's Mansion 3 and Super Mario Odyssey, but this a couple of days ago just started them on Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So it's like Galaxy and what do you call it, Sunshine and all that. And he's been playing Sunshine, and it was like, you poor soul, because it's not the most like young kid friendly. And I thought, put on Super Mario Galaxy. And he's like, Dad, I can't do it. I was like, what do you mean? I forgot, oh yes, the 3D perspective thing. Like,
it's brutal.
It was warping his mind, and he just wasn't really appealed by Super Mario 64. Let's face it, it doesn't look great. So he's just been hopping between all that stuff, but he's definitely getting there, and he keeps asking to play Astro Bot, and I can't put it on for him because I've been hogging the resume play. So I've been continuing my playthrough of Alan Wake 2, and it's like, I know for a fact I've not saved this. I'm living dangerously just by pausing it and resume play. And the other day I had to like put I caved, I put it on for him, and then I had to go all the way back to the start of a chapter, and I was like, I'm not doing it again. So now he knows. I'm like, I can't put it on, bud. Is it the scary game? I was like, yep, it's the scary game. Can I see it? It's like, no, you can't see it. Like,
show him the dead body at the start.
Traumatize him. So yeah, to move on from that, I have been continuing my journey with Alan Wake 2. I am awake. It has its claws in me.
Oh, so
I'm in the overlap now. It's to the point I've even re-downloaded Control.
Oh, I see. This is how it goes.
I'm going to go back to it because I'm like, right, I just want to. It's just Atty. I'm like, I want to go back and just see him in Control again and just see how well they've pulled him over in Alan Wake 2. And also just like, because it's obviously Federal Bureau of Control stuff all the way throughout it, just to see how much did they foreshadow, how much did they, if they just find, is it like, has there been jigsaw pieces on the board that they've kind of meant to do it, or is it something that's supplanted?
It's a good point. I don't know.
Good thing to see.
I don't know, Gav, because I've platinum Control as well back in the day, and I couldn't tell you since. No, I've not played it since, and I do exactly the same as you. I downloaded it as well because I'm like, I'm going to go back and play it mainly for the Alan Wake DLC part of it. So,
is that part of the Ultimate Edition?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So that's what's there on Game Pass and stuff. So I've got that now. Again, I will put it out there. A lot of people have picked this up like me over the Black Friday sales. So I'm not going to discuss story content. I'm not going to put the spoilers because without this game, you know, it would be a real shame to spoil it. Anything, like the smallest detail. I think it's good just to kind of watch it unravel, and that's the thing that gets its hooks in you.
Yeah.
But again, continuing the thread from last week, it's just that multimedia experience, me being the media goon, and it's like searching for meaning in songs and movies and all the rest of it, and it all comes together into just such a wonderful piece of art, it's
beautiful.
What you said months ago, and I'm not even finished it. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, I'd say. And already I'm like, yes, this is a game that Kojima wishes that he made. Because I'm like, it's just the right amount of weird without being indulgent, which is where I've said on this podcast where I think Kojima has veered into now.
He's toes over that line now.
I think, do you know what Kojima needs? He needs a flop.
Yeah.
He needs a flop just to humble him a bit, because I think he enjoys the smell of his own farts a bit these days.
With Kojima, I think the issue is, though, his fans will never let something flop. Like Death Stranding 2 on the beach, we've not seen anything more than the weird trailers that we've seen, and the characters taking pictures of themselves, but it's like that game is still going to be at its core Death Stranding.
Yep.
Now, people want that, that's fine, but when are we going to be like, what?
Yeah.
But then even the leaked footage, so there was a leaked video many moons ago. You keep on looking out there. There was leaked footage of a video previously. It was like somebody playing some game on a mobile phone, and it was like there was rumors that was like the game that he's making with like Margaret Qualley.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it was like what do you call them, like real time cutscenes. So you were tapping the screen and it was moving it and stuff like that. And it was like, that looks fucking weird as fuck. It's like, but you're right. Like, I think that something just has to not work for him, and then that'll be it. He'll then just kind of bring the reins back in and be like, look, I'm sorry, Konami. It actually wasn't you. It was me. I was the arsehole.
I think sometimes from an artistic perspective, you could learn a lot more from the failures than the successes. Now, don't get me wrong. He has every chance of releasing Death Stranding 2, and it's a more fully realised version of what he intended to do with Death Stranding, which polarised, which is, you either loved it or you hated it. Or you didn't, not even hate it, you just didn't understand
it. Yeah. You could hate it. You're allowed to hate it.
Of course, I've never seen that react, but there was, I'll never forget the days that those reviews had failed. And the reviews don't mean anything. It's just somebody's opinion, right?
Yeah.
But that is a barometer of where people are at. And it was very much a case of, it was like either getting 5 out of 5s or like 3 out of 5s, 2s, or the rest. And it's just, I've never seen that, especially with a Kojima game. But it was the fact that at the end of the day, you either found it fun to play or didn't. And that's the thing.
Aye.
That's the thing.
Do you know the best thing about that game? I'm sorry, spoilers aside, right? But fuck it. Right at the end, the best line in any video game that I've ever heard is that the mum, I can't remember her name in it, but the one that's played by the woman in the red dress, whatever her name was, right? She's standing on the beach and you've rescued her, and she says, yeah, it's like Super Mario and Princess Beach. 100% seriously says that. And it's like, this is so schlocky and weird. It's like only Hideo Kojima could get away with something like that, and people will be like, that's funny.
Yeah, there's an element of Emperor's New Clothes with Kojima in that sense. Like, he could put out like a talking turd, and people will
I'd be like, fucking.
He's on a tour.
I'm right. I'm good for that. I love that shit.
Yeah, but it's just, I think that's the problem with him. And I say this as a means of like, I want to see him at his best and up against a challenge. I think if you're in that position where you're at the top of your game or if you're at the top of the mountain, there's nothing left to climb. There's no effort.
Yeah, it's true, aye.
And for a mind as creative as Kojima's, you just want to see that. But anyway, I come back to it. Sam Lake is on your heels, mate. He's the Hideo Kojima of this generation. 100%. He is firing on all fucking cylinders. It's wild. And it's the way that if I compare it, Kojima weaves in celebrity now. That's his calling card. Sam Lake weaves in Scandinavian type influences.
And himself.
So deftly. And it's just incredible how he does it in a way that's like, he's just about to veer into, oh, wait a minute, this is weird for weird's sake, and he pulls it back. Yeah, it's great. And see, the one thing I'll say, and I'll let you continue, because I'm really bad for interrupting, but it's the transparency that you get with Remedy is that there's never this ambiguity about what they're doing. They're always very transparent, and we're making this, we're doing this, expect it at this point. Like, there's never a point where you're like, oh, what the fuck are Remedy doing? Yeah, like they come out all the time and they tell you got loads of updates, and any time there's any sort of behind the scenes stuff, it's always just it's just Remedy. Like every single person that works there and every single person involved just bleeds Remedy. It's class. Yeah, and if you look at it, I mean, they've had to have a couple of stinkers on the way. They had to have a Quantum Break. On the way to get here. But people still think that's good. Of course, you'll get his fans, and you've got he's there. That was probably their moment where they probably skirted too much into the celebrity side, even though they have their collaborators, and there's still like a certain level of celebrity in these games. But yeah, it's fantastic. I look forward to finishing it and just kind of wrapping things up. I'm looking forward to you finishing it because the end. Oh man, I'm very much enjoying it. And yes, and it's also the soundtrack's on my Spotify. This isn't a spoiler. But it's something that, it's worth a second playthrough. Well, yeah, I'm feeling that already. Like right now, like context seems to be so important to this game. Yeah. Again, very similar to like a Metal Gear Solid or something, I suppose. But in this one, they're telling a very deliberate tale. It's still on offer if you are curious. If you were like me, and you thought, I'm going to wait for the sale, this is the time to strike. The deluxe edition is as cheap as it's ever been. It's 50% off still. Treat yourself. But I also had another thing, speaking of treating yourself. I had a really, really gutting moment this week. So my Xbox controller broke. Now, I know you're probably sitting there listening going, boo-hoo. This was a custom Xbox controller. And it had a little bit of sentiment behind it, in the sense that it was 2020 or 2021 we got it. I think it's 21. It was a Christmas present from my wife, and it was just like the Design Lab one, just the basic Xbox controller. It wasn't like the Elite one, and it was like custom colours and all that. It was all grey, kind of like a SNES controller with kind of like orange metallic triggers. It all went together. Really, really nice. I don't even remember it. I've still got I know you'll still have it. I've just like thrown it out. I know, but it's like, it was just the first time I've ever had anything custom, but it was also the first time we were able to buy each other anything like really good for Christmas since like the kids were here. And then we were playing Call of Duty. I was trying to move forward and it kept on stuttering. Like, what? And luckily in Xbox you can test the controller to see if it's recognising, and it was fucked. The left stick was basically not registering up. So I was like, damn. So I started to look, it was Black Friday, and so this did actually break on Black Friday. So I was like, right, I'll have a wee look about. And then they were selling off all the kind of more garish coloured Xbox controllers. Like, I don't like see-through ones. Don't like it. I don't like to see the insides. I do like that. It's not for me, man. But each to their own. But anyway, I ended up stumbling on They were doing really good deals on the
Oh,
Elites.
good, aye. Of course.
Treated myself. I did the gamer math, added up, and they were doing really good deals on the Core Elite, but they don't come with the back paddles and the case and stuff like that. So I was like, if I'm going that far, I might as well go. So I went and got myself the Elite 2, and holy Christ, that is a controller. Like, it has a weight, a heft. The Xbox controller has always suited my shovel hands anyway. But being able to play Call of Duty with that and mapping the paddles out again, man, you've seen it yourself. I'm Face Clan. That's it.
He is actually.
I am the Face Clan.
I can't imagine playing Call of Duty on a controller like that.
Oh, you've not lived.
No, and I just can't. The dexterity of it just hurts my fingers.
It's basically like I'm holding up my hands here, right? So you got your thumbs, your index finger, and your middle finger. Your middle finger's also in the paddles, and that's your sprint and your crouch. You got the index fingers for the aim and fire, and you got your thumbs free just to purely aim. So it's like that kind of three-pronged approach.
That
Scott's
hurts.
actually sitting
That
here.
hurts my hand.
See, when you're holding it, it feels natural.
No,
So I'm
but-
like double tapping. All the rest.
Because when I play it, I'm just thumbing the index
Mhm.
like on everything. So like,
So that time you've got to kind of move your thumb from the crouch button. It's now just there. It's like that split second matters. That's why your
Yes.
man's getting 50, 60 kills a game.
it's true. I know
So-
there's obviously something there. That's why I use the knife more often than not. Because I
Exactly.
just run about like an arsehole.
But you could even do that. You could map. The thing that's good about it is it has an extra set of paddles on it.
Yeah.
So you could effectively map your shoulder buttons. I took them off because for me, they're too close together. But it's even things like being able to adjust the tension
Mhm.
of the sticks. And oh man, it's great. Setting up your custom profiles. You can change the colour of the Xbox logo based on the profile. I've got like orange for
That's
the Call
cool.
of Duty one,
Aye.
like green for just the standard and all that. So at least you know there's just a bit of visual language and it feels great, man. So yeah, I thought, bugger it, I might as well invest whilst I can before I'm absolutely skinned to the need.
Quite
So
right.
I've done that. And yeah, outside of that, this week's been a very special week. We've been celebrating the 30th anniversary of
We've
the
all been
PlayStation.
celebrating it.
All
We
been
all got
celebrating.
cake.
We all got cake indeed. And we also, if you've not done it yet, PlayStation issued an update where you can pick a custom theme this week based on your PlayStation of choice. Even the startup music is the original PlayStation
Oh,
stuff.
it's class,
And
aye.
What I don't get is that it's a limited time only. It's like
I
just
know.
keep it there.
Yeah.
And the 20th anniversary in the PlayStation 4. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud because I remember at the time thinking, wow, 20 years. They offered like 20th anniversary themes and all the rest of it, and they were permanent. You could keep them. I don't like. It's just such a quick win for Sony right now. It's like
Yeah.
just let the fans have it. It doesn't. What good
What
does it do
harm?
taking
What
it away?
harm does it do?
Exactly. But that leads us on to our main topic. Obviously, it is the 30th anniversary of PlayStation that we're celebrating. And really, we just want to. The main topic this year is 30 years of PlayStation. Looking
This
back
year.
on our memories. Can you believe it? Just to start off, just that Excel of 30
Rancid.
years.
Like, I was 4
Yeah,
when the PlayStation came out.
good Christ.
Like, horrible. You'd have been
insane.
like 20 or something like that.
Aye, that's it. Aye, I had a-
24.
I was driving. You know, I was I was driving the ambulance for you being born. No, it's something that we often take for granted. Is like I often think that we're probably in the best generation of gamers where we've really grown up through the real boom and some incredible transformations generation wise in
Oh,
gaming
100%. Yeah.
and PlayStation,
Seeing it in real time.
Yeah.
It's like watching that the intro for The Simpsons with like the evolution of man.
Yes.
It's like watching that in gaming. It's cool. And then
Exactly.
now we've just got the PS5, which is just monolith.
I know it does kind of feel like we're reaching an apex side of things, and you can't really push things too much without it getting silly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine with that, because we won't get another generation like that again.
Yeah.
Again, it's a bit like the music industry. It gets so far, and then it starts to cannibalize itself, which I'm hoping gaming doesn't do. Anyway, I digress. But to kick things off, because what we're going to do is we're going to go through our memories of each stage of the PlayStation
Indeed.
and the consoles. and celebrating this 30th anniversary, because it has the thing that jumps out to me is heritage, legacy, gaming legacy. Sound like Jose Mourinho, you know. But that's basically what this is, because it's a big deal, you know. It's a really big deal. I look forward to the same thing when we get to this stage with Xbox.
Yeah.
Nintendo, I mean, technically been around since the 1800s, but Nintendo, same thing. Like, we look at them as like the grandfathers, and they've pivoted off into more the children's family side of spaces, but something that's probably more for the casual and hardcore of all ages. PlayStation, Xbox are kind of filling that gap. Yeah, you could argue PC, but I'm not going to talk about that. So I suppose history-wise, you know, how PlayStation got started, you know, all beginning with that failed partnership with Nintendo, of course, in the late 80s. Sony back then were going to be working in the CD-ROM for the SNES. Nintendo backed out. They partnered with Philips instead. But then Sony decided to create its own console, which led, at the time, it was Ken Kutaragi that had led that. So 1994, when you were but a wee baby.
A Wayne.
I
might not have even been 4 yet. I'm probably 3.
Yeah, probably two or three, actually.
Fucking hell.
Well, the PlayStation launched back then. Mental. Absolutely mental. For some strange reason, I always thought 1996. Might have been for a European launch, but 1984 technically was the launch. And at the time, you know, you take your mind back then to the 3D graphics. I know they look rudimentary now, but at the time, absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You know, CD-based gaming as well was a huge thing. And it totally changed the landscape. Like, it was a gamble in some sense.
Yeah,
100%.
Like,
they're getting into this console space. You had Sega and all that flying high at the time. And then you add in games.
What were the comparable consoles at that time?
It was the Genesis. Who it was? Was it Dreamcast?
That would have been the Genesis, probably, because the Dreamcast would have been a wee bit later, surely.
Yeah. Let me see. Because again, I'm getting a wee bit confuddled here. Live on the show. How unprofessional. Just as well we're not getting paid. Yet, that's it. Well, the grift is coming soon, guys.
Only does. Liam's going to start selling feet pics.
That's it. Only does. So you had Sega Saturn. How could I forget? The PlayStation and the Nintendo 64.
64, aye. Right, okay.
These were the ones that were all about at the time. But I mean, the PlayStation really did help cut new ground or blaze a new trail. You add in games. That's what PlayStation always comes to me. Like, you think of them as iconic franchises that either found a new home here, or started there. So, new home, Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 7.
Because Final Fantasy was synonymous with Nintendo, and like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, whatever, were always on your Super Nintendos and all that kind of back in the day. And when they did, you know, shuffle away over to the PlayStation, it was a massive deal.
Yeah.
I think I was watching a video of the history of RPGs. It's like a 7-hour video. And I made it through that point recently, and it was talking about how all these consoles and all the kind of people before the PlayStation were seen as, like, you know, you had your top-down RPGs, you had your sort of, you know, all the usual ones that you're used to seeing, like the 2D.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. And then the jump, you can see it. It's incredible.
It's unbelievable, man. Like, and then, I mean, if we go back to it, you think about it, it established them as a major player and kind of reshuffled the plates of the gaming industry. And without this, you know, you needed that. So you've got this iconic legacy born. The more we look back on it, it's like, my God, they couldn't have asked for a better first debut into the gaming space.
Well, talking about debuts, what were the debut titles for the OG PlayStation release?
Oh, no, that's a good question. Let me have a wee look here. Let me
because
just consult Skynet.
As a 3-year-old, my memories of PlayStation are hazy at best. You know,
that's what I'm going to start on. What's your history with the PlayStation? When do you remember either getting your hands on it or playing it for the first time? If you didn't own it, whatever. So,
to be honest with you, I don't remember it ever having it enter my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there.
Yep.
Like, grew up with my brother who lived at home at that time, and I can remember always rushing home to play the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we had a PlayStation for quite a while after it came out.
Yep.
We always had the Super Nintendo at home. So when I was coming home from like primary school or something, for example, I was playing like the Lost Vikings So I fucking love that game. And like things like Earthworm Jim and all that. And then all of a sudden, I just remember having this PlayStation at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not. I've been racking my brains for the longest time to try and tell you the games that we had, but I cannot remember. But I remember my next door neighbour had one as well.
Yep.
And this was the time where I started to play. Like I remember quite vividly playing through Metal Gear Solid with him.
Yep.
Playing games like Soul Reaver with him. Things like Super. No, not even like I was going to say Super Monkey Ball, but I can't even remember if that was as far back as that. But I can remember playing like daft things on it, like Tekken, stuff like that as well. Like Tekken was a big one.
Huge.
Tekken 3, I can remember watching the intros to that game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting the demo disc that had Eddie and Xiao Yu in it.
Yep.
And playing that for hours and hours and hours on end. I remember getting a Ghost in the Shell demo disc as well.
Yes.
No idea how that game played or whatever. But then I had another mate who lived up the road that had a chipped PlayStation as well.
Aye, that was the thing.
That was the best. Like, they used to go to the bars and all that and go and get all their discs and stuff, which was class. But I never ever remember. The PlayStation 1 was a period in time that I have no memory of it being there. I have more memories of like the N64, for example.
Yeah,
but it was always there. I think that the N64 and Nintendo consoles and stuff like that were always my console, and the PlayStation was my brother's. And then we would sort of flip about, but I still have this history of just playing these games like Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that all the time, and that's where the love affair starts. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
That's how it gets to you. But I would be interested to hear what the first few games that came out for it were.
Well, it depends. I'll look specifically at the UK launch.
UK, because there's no point.
Because the Japanese one was a year before it, so it came in Europe in 1995.
Okay.
So in terms of the launch games that we have here, let's see. So we have obviously ones like Ridge Racer. That was out. I'll go back here. There's other ones as well. So it's a US launch.
So things like Colin McRae Rally and stuff like that as well.
Well, here's a US launch. We'll look at that just to give us a bit of context. We've got Air Combat, Battle Arena,
Toshinden. Oh my god.
ESPN Extreme Sports, Killick, the DNA Imperative, NBA Jam Tournament Edition,
yes.
Rayman, Ridge Racer,
Rayman,
Soul Calibur,
oh.
Street Fighter the movie,
yes,
the Raiden Project, and Total Eclipse Turbo. Now, there's also other ones as well. There was that From Software type. Was it? From Software had a launch game on it as well, I remember. In the Japanese launch.
Tenchu? Kingsfield?
Kingsfield. It was Kingsfield. So, I mean, there was already grains.
Is it just you saying stuff like Battle Arena Toshinden and Rayman?
Different time. Rayman, I remember playing that. I remember getting that off my cousin.
Yeah.
Being so compelled by it because it was weird.
I had the best. I had the best ending. Like, you know how you have the Mario and you go down the things like Rayman would just go, yeah! Like, it was great.
But in terms of history, because what I'll do is I'll try and fly through this a bit because there's a lot of PlayStation stuff here, but history, it's the same thing. Like, you're back in the day of you always got exposed to this either through a friend or a family.
Yeah.
You know, me, I was obviously just a couple of years older. Me, it was my aunt. So the cool auntie, of course, like she had a PlayStation, she had Tekken, she had Crash Bandicoot and all that on it, and I was like, this is great. So I remember just loving going to her house and playing it, and I finally got one a few years later at Christmas time. So this was after the launch, Tekken 2, and I remember getting Space Jam as well. The game, which I was terrible at, but it was like the coolest thing ever. But it really was just that felt like the default console of choice. I mean, they sold over 100 million units, you know, for a reason.
Right.
Incredible. But it was always the thing. It's like if you want to come play games, it's like you would expect a PlayStation, at least where I was growing up anyway. Very rarely would it be something like an N64. And you did have friends that did have N64s.
Yeah.
But even like my cousin and that as well, who was the same age as me, we'd be playing like games like Oddworld right up to like 3-4 in the morning. We would have like sleepovers every weekend. Resident Evil, other games like weird, like kind of B-tier ones like Pandemonium 1 and 2.
Oh my god!
I mean, the WWF games, Tomb Raider, the original Grand Theft Auto, playing it on that. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. Like these games are absolutely like time sinks at the time, and of course, you mentioned before Final Fantasy 7, but like Metal Gear Solid,
and also Hogs of War.
Hogs of War, yes, of course.
Anytime I can get Hogs of War and Army Men. Remember Army Men?
Yes, do remember.
So good.
And then I suppose some other people would have Worms as well, yeah.
I like how we both said that differently. Like both from the same country, same dialect, but we both said that game completely different. You said Worms. Said Worms.
I'm trying to not do that on this just in case.
Funny, man.
I have a lower timbre. I must have pronounced my T's. But yeah, PlayStation 1, what a launch.
Yes.
Great way to kick it off. So we fast forward then to the PlayStation 2. Funnily enough, they called it the PlayStation 2. And they continued that trend, but that was launched in the year 2000.
Not much had changed. And that was a 3000.
But of course, that massive success of the original PlayStation, 100 million units under the belt. How did they do that? They launched one that goes on to become the best-selling console of all time.
It's ridiculous.
Over 155 million units sold. Actually, I think it might have been confirmed this week's 160. Crazy numbers. But the thing that was the game changer here, they introduced that built-in DVD player as well. So they started to attack the living room, which is interesting. And it took it to new levels, of course. So I started to think about, can this be an entertainment hub as well as a games console? You start to see the grains of that. And obviously the library of games, it just continued this hot streak.
I would say it got better. Like it improved everything substantially.
Well, you've just rhymed off a lot of games at the start of this podcast that was so core to the success of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. That, again, the place to go. You're continuing things like Metal Gear Solid. Final Fantasy still there.
Soul Calibur. 3 maybe.
Yep. The heyday of movie tie-ins, and of course, at the top of that list, Spider-Man 2. You get like X2, Wolverine's Revenge.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. They became commonplace. The wrestling games
your sports games, like your FIFAs and stuff, only got better.
Pro Evolution Soccer. You know what I mean? SmackDown versus Raw.
It says a lot that we are the way we are because of the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
If we're talking about history and personal history, I think I've said this before, but I never got a PlayStation 2 at launch. My brother did. And he was old enough that he moved out at that point in time. So he'd moved in with his girlfriend. And I remember coming home from school one day and he was like, yeah, I got a PlayStation 2. And I was like, right, I'm coming to yours then.
Yep.
And the first game that he had was The Bouncer.
Yes.
And I fell in love with it immediately. And that was the beginning of the love affair with, your RPGs and stuff like that. Like, that's when I started to think, oh my God, like this is me now, playing Final Fantasy and stuff and really getting on board with games like that. It was just wild. Like, what a time. And as you say, it's the catalogue of games because there is so many.
It just felt like at that point in time, Sony were taking risks. They were weird without being overly weird. You had like outstanding ones, like Devil May Cry.
Yes,
was a risk.
Yeah,
games like Okami, God of War, all these, like, they were just building that portfolio of iconic games. There was odd choices of like Oddworld. I was always gutted at the time that it went to Xbox because I didn't have one until a few years later. But same with me. If I look back at my history and memories of it, I've spoke about it before. I was stupid as a child. I was given the opportunity in 2001. It's like, what do you want for your Christmas? I was like, I want a DVD player. I could have got a PlayStation 2. In hindsight, I think my folks should just push me down that path because they wanted the DVD player. But fair play. Well played. Because I remember on Christmas Day when I had a copy of Miss Congeniality there and Shrek.
Oh, what a film, though.
Like, Miss Congeniality ended up just being a pure belter of a film. But at the time, I was like, Mum, you definitely wanted this.
Definitely.
This is for you.
100%.
So I ended up getting the PlayStation 2 2 years after launch in 2002. Again, got it on my birthday. And again, it was a console of choice. But I remember the benefit of getting the console later because you had such a rich library.
Yeah.
GTA 3 was top of the list. And then I got GTA Vice City a few months later. I remember my dad going into Electronics Boutique at the time. I do not know how I managed to con him into it. But he knew that I'd love Grand Theft Auto. He went and got it for me on launch day. And the Forge in Parkhead, if people remember that. And yeah, I remember just being totally enamored with it. And it was the same thing. You only ever got games, either if my dad took a quick fancy to it. I know,
choking on your words.
If he took a quick fancy to it, but usually it was birthdays and Christmas, so it was like I don't remember having a vast library, but the games that I did have, I would play them to death.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm actually just like, as you're talking about it, I'm just looking through the list of games, things like, the things that I hadn't even thought about: Silent Hill 2,
yep,
Tekken 4, Tekken 5, like she said, Devil May Cry, Burnout. The Burnout series was incredible.
The Getaway.
Simpsons Hit and Run.
Oh, good God, yes. Tie-ins were so good to that console.
Number 13. X.
Yes.
Aye. Time Splitters.
1 and 2.
Tony Hawk's, I'd say, improved 100% substantially.
Thug 1 and 2.
Thug, aye. These are the games that, even the Harry Potter games back then.
Oh, yes.
and you know what? The ones that we've missed and shouldn't have, the Def Jam series.
Def Jam. Yep, absolutely.
It's just like, you look at the games that we just mentioned there, they go from horror, action, RPG,
sports,
Def Jam, sports. It's just everything was there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And it's like, there was games still coming out for that console as far as, beginning of PlayStation 4, I'd say. Like,
yeah, I think you're right. Because it was still selling.
Still selling, aye. So it's just ridiculous. Like, I again, it's just the memory that I have of the PlayStation. The PlayStation 2 was getting Metal Gear Solid 3 because I went up to the game station, East Kilbride Shopping Centre. My house was like 10 minutes up the road, so I remember running up there. And I just saved up enough money to buy it. And I went into the shop and they wouldn't give it to me because I wasn't old enough. So I remember running home with my mum and being like, "Go to come up to the centre with me so I can buy it." Wow. Yeah, there you go.
I just got the actual name of the last game to be released in the PlayStation 2. What year do you think it was? Just
2019.
No, it was 2014. And it was sorry, actually. It was 2013. The last game was Pro Evolution Soccer 2014.
Jesus Christ.
And repair systems for the system, repair services for the system, it says here, ended in Japan on the 7th of September 2018.
Aye.
18 years after launch. That's
wild.
Mental.
It just goes to show how beloved it was. Or beloved. How would you say that?
Yeah, there are.
But
first.
It's just like, PlayStation were cooking then. Like,
yeah,
literally fucking shitting out games and everyone was loving it.
It's almost like they were too good to fail. And of course, riding on that crest of a wave, they decided to diversify into the handheld market. So, in 2004, they launched the PlayStation Portable, or the PSP as it's more commonly known.
It's interesting that you're talking about this because I hadn't even thought about that.
Exactly. Well, we are going deep here. We're going deep. But of course, it was their first venture into handheld gaming. Yeah. I remember seeing this in the gaming magazine and just being totally like, what?
What is this?
PS2 in your hands. Like, obviously, the hardware at the time, it was like incredible.
Yes.
Even though it was on its own proprietary UMD, ways to kind of play the games, which were cool. Remember they did films.
The weird things,
So
no,
weird.
Definitely.
But of course, they were aiming to give you that console quality experience in the palm of your hands, which I think they definitely delivered on, even though there was some shortcomings.
The power of the sun
In the palm of your hands. I did actually have Spider-Man 2 in UMD.
I think we all did.
Only one that I remember buying.
I think we all did.
You had lots of things on that. So they were obviously trying to tap into, and remember, take your mind back to 2004.
Yeah.
And they were also big on like Sony Walkman phones and that. So we're trying to have that multimedia in your hand.
Because you could put music on it and stuff, and you could put pictures and shit on it as well.
Exactly. So that's what they're going for. But the games, of course, carried it. So you had ones like Chains of Olympus, God of War, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII,
Grand Theft Auto
Stories, like Liberty City and Vice City Stories, which is still the greatest Vice City game ever made. I will go to bat for that. That's when you should try and dig out an emulator, by the way, because it's
it'll be easy enough to get.
But interestingly enough, not a flop at all. It sold over 80 million units.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I remember getting
Madness.
I remember getting it, and I never had an internet. I never had the internet in my house when I got it.
Yeah.
So what I used to do is, if I lay in my bed a certain way, I could reach the internet at the local train station. And any single time I wanted to download something, I would just download it from there.
That's excellent.
It was like Belkin 54G or something like that. And I'd steal it from there and I always download stuff. But I had my PSP was just a pure midden by the time I was finished with it. It was disgusting. I mean, unspeakable things on that console, but
Jesus
as a 14-year-old boy, horrendous visions. But
in your economic editions and publications, I'm sure.
That's it, yeah. Definitely that. But it was like, see for all the chat that goes for like Peace Walking and stuff like that on the PSP. Never played it. No. Never played it on PSP. First time I ever played Peace Walker was on the Xbox.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
I think I mostly played things like I think I had God of War for it. Raw versus SmackDown.
Absolutely.
Had that on it as well. I don't remember much else, to be honest with you.
See, I have really...
Tekken 5 because I hated it. Didn't like it on the PSP.
Well, I remember having like really fond memories. And again, you've got to cast your mind back to this is before I had... I didn't have my own disposable income to the following year in 2005. Right? And I remember going to buy SmackDown versus Raw 2006 on it because I already had it in PS2. That would have been a couple of years after, but I remember buying it in PSP. But I remember going right back to my first glimpse of it. And it was my cousin, one I mentioned beforehand. So we were like absolutely thick as thieves. And we'd be really big into gaming together. And my aunt and uncle had went to the States. And they picked up a PSP for him over there. So he brought it back before the European release date. And it was such a buzz. It was like, it was contraband. Oh my God. Like... I'll never forget him bringing it over to the house, and he was also pure buzzing to show off, like, this thing's amazing, and then just playing stuff on it. And he didn't have GTA on it because it wasn't out yet. I can't remember what the game was that we would have been playing on it, but I was like, oh my God, like, they've done it.
Yeah.
And I remember holding it, just like, this feels quality. It had a bit of a heft to it.
Do you know one of the games that was on it? Oh, it came out on PlayStation Plus recently. It was like I'll waffle for a moment because I will be able to find it. But it was like you played as a policeman, and you would drive around. And you would chase down convicts, and you could jump from your car onto their car. You would dive about Pursuit Force. That was it.
Okay,
it was phenomenal. Honestly, if you get 2 minutes to play it on your PlayStation on PS Plus, just do it for a laugh because it's just a total vibe. Like. It's ridiculous, but as you say, it's just like going from you're playing games like, back in that day, you'd have been playing stuff on like the Game Boy Advance, SP, stuff like that, maybe.
Yes,
DS. Like, it's good. I don't think it's as late as that, eh?
DS, I think. No, yeah, I think it's DS it went up against.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, if it was, even though you're playing stuff on that, and it's like, yeah, it's a DS game, do you know what I mean? Whereas you can play full...
It was
console experience type games on a PSP. I mean, stripped down, but you could reasonably play Grand Theft Auto, Liberty City Stories on it and be like, this is good.
I just never forget that Christmas. I managed to get one that Christmas, and my mum had got us the Giga Pack, which came with like the gigabyte storage on it, which was wasted on me because, again, didn't have the disposable income of my own. So I played the hell out of like Liberty City Stories.
Yeah.
And then I also had Pro Evolution Soccer on it, which, honest to God, the amount of hours. And I just remember, because I was still at school, taking it into school and sitting in the library when I was supposed to be studying and just sitting playing this. Like, hours on end. And I would play it all the time, even with that little terrible... When you look back on it, the shoulder buttons were crap and the terrible analog, the one analog option that it gave you. But it still has a place in my heart because I also remember having that at the time when I met my now wife. And just like, I remember just like summers spent just sitting, bringing that PSP with me, playing Liberty City Stories, not just chilling, just like good memories. Just
like, go to stop playing Liberty City and talk to me, you fucking dick.
I'm playing my PSP. But I don't know why, it's just like, I always make those associations in my head.
Yeah.
Time and place, but don't get me wrong, it was imperfect. But as a first iteration into that space, it was fantastic and still remains, for me, their best handheld. Anyway, we should move on to the next one because I'm conscious of time and we've still got a lot of consoles to get through here. Move on a couple of years later to the PlayStation 3.
Yes.
So we are talking about nothing but success. And I think we mentioned it earlier. Sometimes you need a failure to bounce back from.
Yeah.
And that failure is a strong word, but you need just a little, little chip in the armour. So we've got here 2006, and they're making the leap into HD gaming for the first time and introducing Blu-ray support, similar to the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
It was a Blu-ray player, which is again should have been a huge thing because go back then it was HD DVD versus Blu-ray, the battle, and Blu-ray prevailed. Oddly enough,
but
the PlayStation 3.
Not at that time though.
Not at that time. It took years for it to settle in. I don't think it really. Honestly, I think it took another 2-3 years at that point.
100%
for it to settle in, and it was a bit of a rocky start. Obviously, the high price. You need to get another job to pay for it. Massive competition from the absolutely balls out swinging Xbox 360, which was the console
fucking
generation.
The juggernaut. That was my first note. Is that I have memories of the PlayStation 3, but the Xbox 360 was the console. Do you know what I mean? Like that was
it. Got us.
That was it. Aye.
Got us all, and of course the Wii,
which is incredible, going from such highs of a PlayStation 2 to then just drop it and go for an Xbox. It's like, it's like
this was the start of the trend. The one that was on top would then no longer be, and the one that was chasing. So it became a bit of an exciting industry at that point until now, where it starts to feel a bit monopolised. Anyway, I digress. We also had the Wii, but it still was churning out incredible games. Now, for me, the PlayStation 3, I've got it here. In the end of its run, it sold over 87 million units. So it's not.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like PS2 level, but it's by no means a failure. But on the PlayStation front,
less than or just more than the PSP?
Just more.
Okay.
So again, it's not exactly their golden days at that point, but it still introduced a lot of cool things like pushing online gaming with the PlayStation Network. They tried out things like PlayStation Home and all that as well.
I used to play the pool game on that all the time.
Exactly. So I mean, it's setting that scene for PlayStation Plus, what we come to see it now. Obviously, it had a few other howlers at that time. The big PlayStation Network outage.
Yes.
The scheme that they had to kind of compensate people after that. Of course, like that was falling off the back of the launch. The form factor. Personally, I enjoyed it. This big, massive beast of a console doesn't put me off, but I totally accept it. It's like it wasn't the slickest of things to have. And then, of course, as a man that appreciates a good font, using that Spider-Man font wasn't a good idea, man. It wasn't a good idea. So they kind of softly rebranded during this generation as well. But it was the thing that, before I get into the games, right, I want to just focus on the memories. So you mentioned it there. The memory is that we had all been pulled to Xbox 360.
Yeah.
And I remember that. That's where your pals were. The advent of online gaming, or console gaming, Xbox Live, everybody was over there. We were playing Gears of War and Halo and Love and Life, Call of Duty, all on 360. But I remember when I purchased my PS3, again, this is now into the disposable income era of my life. And it was a total impulse buy, Scott. Because I remember I'm still reading games magazines and I'm still looking at it. I'm like, God, Uncharted? That looks good. I think I'll just go up to the fort and buy that. So I remember dragging my now wife, girlfriend at the time, just being like, I'm going up to the fort. You might come with us. We're going to game. I'm just having a look. And I'll walk. Like she goes into HMV. So I'll go and get you once I'm finished looking. I remember meeting her just with this almighty huge box for PlayStation 3. It was massive with Uncharted and all the rest of it. And it cost me an absolute bomb at the time. But at the time, I was still living at home. I could afford that. And over time, it just turned into my exclusive machine.
Yeah.
But I used that extensively as my media player. So I used to have an old iPod that I would legally download things onto and just watch those episodes of The Simpsons all the time on it. Totally purchased through the iTunes store, of course. But it was a fantastic media machine. It could play most formats, exceptional. And it was just such a shame because they had all the parts. A bit similar to when you look at Xbox One.
Yeah.
They had all the parts. They just couldn't get the popularity behind it. What was your foray into PS3?
So I didn't get a PS3 at the beginning of it. I think I got a PS3 around about the time when I actually, either just before, it will have been before I met my wife. So maybe a couple of years after it came out. And like yourself, it is very much just, I think I bought it myself, and I bought it because I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid 4 on it, and that was it.
Yep.
Like, I remember seeing the hype for Metal Gear Solid 4, but I never bought it. My mum bought me the Xbox 360, so I was like, right, that's it now. But the minute I got money for myself, I was like, right, okay, we're buying a PlayStation 3, and it was Metal Gear Solid 4. I remember playing Final Fantasy 13 on that thing as well, and I remember it because it corrupted my data.
Yeah.
60 hours into it,
man,
and being like, I fucking hate this thing. Like, I never want to play this game ever again. And then 2 weeks later, I was playing it all over again. But it was things like Uncharted as well. Like, it's the beginning of these series of games that you start to see it bleed through. And then the later the generation came when I met you, and we started obviously playing stuff together. The Last of Us, like,
great memories.
It reaches so far that you forget how long it took. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
it did.
We were playing Metal Gear Solid 4 on that, and then at the end of it, we're playing The Last of Us. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just that complete
5 years between that.
Polar opposite is wild.
And you're absolutely right though. Like, Metal Gear Solid was the thing I remember playing into my purchase decision, because Uncharted was already out, and I thought, well, at least I'll get to play Metal Gear Solid 4. But you mentioned it there, The Last of Us. We've spoken about it all the time, but
yeah,
I'm not going to talk about the game. I'm just the memory of it. We had both graduated.
Yep.
I remember I had bought The Last of Us, and I had the PlayStation 3 there, and we were very hungover. And I was just like, why don't you just play through the whole game? And we just spent that time. I just sat and watched you play through the game, and honestly, it was one of my favourite experiences. So I'm just like, I'd already beaten it, but just getting to see it all again. And I distinctly remember it was roasting, just having big, tall glasses of iron brew to get through these hangovers with that game.
It was beautiful.
It was absolutely fantastic. But you're right. Like, look at some of the other games on it. We mentioned too, like Uncharted and that, Metal Gear Solid 4. But other ones like Journey, Killzone 2, Infamous, Resistance, Little Big Planet. Like, these were just ones that come to mind. And obviously you had like God of War 3 and stuff like that as well.
Your Batman games and stuff as well. Dark Souls, Far Cry.
They still had all these things.
It was the beginning of when I started to play things like Guitar Hero and stuff as well. Rock Band.
Yeah.
So again, you're seeing the breadth of games, but it was always just never quite as well as Xbox. It was always just like, I don't even know why though. Like, I don't understand it, because it is comparable. Do you know what I mean? But the offer that you were getting with the Xbox Live Gold and stuff like that as well was always better.
Yeah.
And like the arcade, Xbox Arcade and stuff, and the store and all that was always better. So I don't really know what factored into the decision, but ultimately it was just a case of playing it with yourself. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what it ended up being. But in the time since I bought that first PlayStation, I sold it, bought another one, sold it, and have since bought another one. Like, I've got a PlayStation 3 in the house at the moment for no reason. But it's just daft things. Like, it's just to play stupid things. But there's games on it that you just completely forget about.
Oh yeah, I mean, it did have a good catalogue. Remember, like, ones like MotorStorm, when it first came out as well.
Dead Space,
yeah, and you still had all the good stuff. I mean, Devil May Cry 4.
Yeah,
I remember being so happy when that came out. I remember going to buy it at Tesco.
Was that not PlayStation 2?
No, it was PlayStation 4 out of 3.
Devil May Cry 4. Oh, so it was, because it's Nero in the front, right? Okay.
And even the other ones, like, if you're into it, like the Ratchet and Clank games, as well. They had other ones as well.
3.
Max Payne 3, yep. There was so many good ass games on it. Like, some, you even had ones like Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I remember it was a nightmare I developed for, which went against it. Games like Skyrim came out and that had problems for ages, so people couldn't really play it properly. And that went against it. And I remember when, back in the gaming magazine heyday, seeing the leak for the PlayStation 3 and the leak about the first ever prototype
the
controller,
banana controller,
and that was at the age where it was kind of was almost like an innocent look into the future, where it's like, are we going to be playing on bananas? Like, oh my goodness, the boomerang, and then obviously the DualSense, or the what do you call it, the DualShock, and it had like the 6-axis in it as well, and it was dead light.
Because they always had to try and put, when you were walking across like tight ropes and stuff like that, and you always had to try and move it in a certain way. You'd be like, oh.
Exactly. But I suppose,
see the controllers now, they're so like, the controllers for the PlayStation 3 are actually quite valuable.
Really?
Because I think that they break quite a lot. So actual OG PlayStation 3 controllers are like hen's teeth, they say.
Interesting. I should have kept a hold of mine. But
I might have just made that up. I talk shite. But
some poor souls on eBay heartbeating at their chest.
There's also some guy just like sadly lamenting the banana controller not coming out.
I know.
For its other uses.
Absolutely. Playing fetch. I think moving on to the next one, the next release here, of course, go forward to 2011, right? And they went back into the handheld market, and it was the PlayStation Vita. The follow-up to the PSP was launched, featuring things like an OLED screen, dual analog sticks as well, touch controls front and back, given a little bit more options of gameplay, even though the back touchpad ended up being just full of a chocolate teapot. But it did have a lot of critically acclaimed games on there, things like Persona 4 Golden, Gravity Rush, and as well as remote play in the future for its next console, the PS4, which we'll come to in a minute. Unfortunately, the Vita did struggle against a few things. I had a lot of really, really like tough competition against things like the 3DS. Don't forget we take for granted how much of a juggernaut the DS and 3DS was. It was insane. No wonder the Switch is doing well. But it didn't really achieve massive sales as a result. It didn't repeat the success of the PSP. It has, though, went on to become a bit of a cult favourite for its kind of, what should I say, okay library and its capabilities as hardware. Now, there's no contest. It was, as a piece of hardware, miles better than the PSP.
Oh, yeah.
But as a absolute, did it deliver what it set out to do? A complete disappointment for me. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be in that camp where it's like, I'm going to pretend a 6 out of 10 is a 10. The PS Vita, I'm going to go straight into the memories here, right? Straight in. The PS Vita was probably the biggest disappointment that I've had from Sony. I remember the early hype, buying it, day one. I remember sending you pictures of it. Here it is. Playing things like Uncharted, Golden Abyss, and Ultimate Marvel v Capcom 3, which I got for free in Game Station just through some confusion with pre-orders. And that was it. I remember playing FIFA and stuff on it. And despite the early promise, we're going to have a Bioshock game, we're going to have all this stuff on it, never came. Because the sales went there, so they're not going to develop.
Yeah.
So I ended up selling it for beer money because I was still
I remember it. I remember you doing it as well.
Student at the time, but I was like, do you know what? That I'm not getting anything that I'll need out of this.
Yeah.
I was just playing games that I was playing on console, like FIFA, on it, and I was like, the games that were there, like Persona and stuff like that, didn't appeal to me anyway.
It's not for you.
So I'm like, nah, this ain't it, Chief.
It feels like it's like a step too soon with the Vita.
Yeah.
It's like what you're talking about, all the features that it had are something that you would expect from a console maybe now. Do you know what I mean? Whereas back then it just didn't have the library and didn't have the support for it. Like I think I got one very late into it, and the only game I ever played on it was a Metal Gear Solid HD collection.
Yeah, I remember having that on it. Yep. Had that on it.
And similarly to yourself, it was sold almost immediately as I got it because it was just like, there's no point to own this thing.
Yep.
I remember, what do I remember about it? I genuinely just remember playing Metal Gear Solid on the thing. Like it's so funny because it's just followed me through the whole time.
It was such a shame though, because
100%.
hardware wise, I think that's probably the most spot on they've ever got a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Since like maybe PS2 or whatever.
Just say though, I do just think it was one step too soon.
Yeah.
Like if this rumored PS5 handheld thing, they just came out and went, do you know what? We're just going to give you the Vita again, but just better. But like, do you know what? Sound.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I don't want a fucking Game Gear, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's one of those ones where it just didn't deliver what it said to do.
yeah, no, and
It's a different time.
That's
different
it.
time.
I just think it was just too soon for it all. But I'm trying to find games that potentially I would have played on it, but the only one that I can think of and I can genuinely see at the moment is Metal Gear Solid. I wouldn't have played maybe Guacamelee, and then all the things for like I was trying to think of what else I might have done with it. It was like remote play, but it was a fucking nightmare. Like it never worked properly.
Yeah.
Whereas now you play it on the Portal and it's like it's comparable to what you're playing on the TV.
Yeah, the Portal's infinitely better than the VR.
So it's just,
even though it doesn't work as a handheld device.
It should, what I mean? It should be considering what's been done with it. But as I say this, if that Vita was brought out now, it would have a different conversation about it.
Yeah, and the successor will be an absolute juggernaut. We might have time to talk about that in another episode, perhaps.
Goodness.
But we should move on, because obviously for every high there is a low, to and a fro. We move on to 2013, where they've launched the PlayStation 4, which was very much
this was the best day. The best day.
Because
it was like never bought a console at launch.
Yep, same.
And this was the day, and we did it together.
We did, hand in hand.
It was beautiful.
But it launched in 2013, of course. It was a return to form. And the big thing behind it, we all remember in the lead up to it, you had Andrew in the house. You had the infamous, this is how you share a game on PlayStation, against the backdrop of Xbox completely fudging the success from the 360, as I mentioned earlier, the trend. Xbox One didn't stick the landing. So they had such momentum going into this.
You could definitely say Xbox lost.
Indeed. Boom, boom. But then, they focused on games first. They came in at a cheaper price, $350.
Yes.
It focused on the games. They had the marketing message and the communication was all about games, and it was an easy to use interface. And they introduced like wee things like the share button.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic innovations. And then, of course, the library of games, which arguably could be their best. And from a blockbuster perspective, I would still say PS2.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, it's like, damn, the PS4, they were cooking.
Yeah, no, definitely, aye.
So, it doubled down. They finally started to get online play right. Because I remember the launch of PS4, like, not sure about the PlayStation Network, but they got it right. And it was a massive success. It had over 120 million units sold, which is insane. Comparing that so close to the PS2.
Is that just base PS4s? Is that Pros included?
I believe that includes Pros as well. Yep. So it cemented Sony. Like, they've stole a march and they've not looked back since.
Yeah.
Now, as you mentioned, that memory of the launch day, both of us, first time launchers, eh?
Oh, so good.
For a household console. I'm not counting like the Vita and that. But I remember just you and I going to a local game shop. A friend of ours had his brother was running the game shop. We didn't get it early, but I remember just pre-ordering everything. We had that. We had got 4 games and a controller, an extra controller each that we could pick. And it just felt like the start of a movement.
It was great. It was. I remember the conversation because we bought the game, we bought the thing, got the games and stuff, took it away, and it's been like, am I going to buy Injustice? So it was like, hey, we're going to buy it, and we're going to buy it, and being like, it's like pure exciting, man.
Oh god, it was so good, and the launch lineup was pretty cool.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag, was that not one of them?
Yep, that was one of them. It was like Killzone Shadowfall was another one. I'm remembering that was a Call of Duty Ghost. Of course, we got that, which was terrible.
Resogun, that was a
Resogun. Yep, I think we might have got the FIFA as well that came out with that.
Probably
because you have to. You have to.
I've never shared more goals than ever before. Like, I shared so many goals on that console. Like, it was incredible.
That was the novelty of it. They're just pressing share button. I've done something cool. Have a look.
Yeah, and
that just became commonplace now. But at the time, it was like, wow. Like, we're still in the advent of social media. Back before it became dominated by racist aunties. It was an innocent place filled with cracking goals in FIFA.
It's just me.
But then you look at the games here. Right, we'll start here. Like God of War 2018, Rocket League, Last of Us Part 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Spider-Man, Metal Gear Solid 5, Bloodborne, Ghost of Tsushima, Witcher 3, Overwatch, Control, Uncharted 4, Death Stranding, Shadow of Mordor, Neo, Infamous Second Son. I could go on and on. There was so many bangers on that console.
There was, yeah.
So many bangers. And it was something that I think, looking back on it now, because don't forget, that's 11 years ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's just to be expected at that point, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that with the difficulties that they had with 3, it was just very much like, we're now doing this. Like,
back.
I'm hand on the wheel. Like, I'll do this one, son. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. And as you say, like, it seems like it's the beginning of what we know now as gaming as a whole. Do you know what I mean? But it very much became like PlayStation 4 was the Xbox 360 for me at that point. It became the console that I played everything on.
Yeah.
I bought the Xbox One.
Yep.
I bought that not around the same time, but I went to Dubai with my wife, came back with more money than I expected. And on the drive home, I popped into Asda and bought the Xbox on the way home.
I remember getting the picture.
And the Kinect and being like, I don't know why I own this now. Like, I just have this console.
I know. Same. It was the exact same feeling buying the PS3 for me. Like with the Xbox One, I wanted to play Titanfall, and I remember clinging on for dear life, just wanting games, and they never came on.
Yeah,
they never came. But I digress. We go forward to 2016. Of course, the PS5 Pro is
PS4 Pro.
PS4 Pro, of course. That came out in 2017. But we go back to 2016. The PlayStation VR launched. And again, this just kind of was testimony to PlayStation's trying something a bit new, bringing VR to PS4 players. And it was a very accessible way to get into VR, you know, despite the amount of leads and stuff that you needed. So for the first time, console players get a chance to experience something really immersive like that in a long time. And you did have a lot of standout titles on it. I was actually probably guilty of not really appreciating the library of PSVR until now. So you had ones like Astrobot Rescue Mission, you had Beat Saber, Resident Evil 7 VR, Batman Arkham VR, Tetris Effect, Arizona Sunshine, Job Simulator, Keep Talking or Nobody Explodes, Moss, Skyrim VR, like they had these little tie-ins with the Star Wars Battlefront VR. So many amazing memories, and I think we've talked about it in the podcast before. You know, it did showcase the potential of VR for the first time, because it was still very proprietary. It was still very much at the introductory stage market-wise, and at the affordable price made it a hit. You know, it sold over 5 million units, which they didn't expect. They were putting this out like, do you know what? This is a test. Come and test this out with us. They weren't expecting it to fly, but it did show that Sony was committed to trying new things. And in terms of memories, that's just what I mentioned before. You know, getting the PlayStation VR made me feel like a kid again, because I remember it so well. Like getting to go to the early preview events for it, wearing a PSVR headset that had Batman ears on it, that you had taken that picture and distributed during your best man's speech, along with other pictures. Thank you for that. But I remember like being on my honeymoon and my wife indulging me, letting me go to another preview event, and then she surprised me on Christmas Day with the PlayStation VR, and I felt like I was 6 years old again. Honestly, it was pure magic, and it'll always be etched in my brain as something that I'll cherish, which is great, absolutely great. But yeah, I mean, even having memories with yourself playing it, bringing people around the house.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's like it was like a talking piece when you come round, like jump, throw it on your head and have a shot of this, like
kitchen demo.
That was it. It was very much like that. It was never something that I've ever been like wanting for it. Do you know what I mean? Like even after I tried it, I was like, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like a roller coaster. It's like, cool, I've had a shot of that now. I'm done. But I can see the fascination behind it. Like I can see why it works. So fair dues,
Absolutely. And moving forward then, the world was a very different place, as we know. Most recently, the PlayStation 5, the big modern art piece that it is, released in 2020.
Released at the right time.
Oh, thank God, it really did. It got us through, man. But it aimed to take gaming to a new level in terms of new level. I sound like it's not my first language.
Take game to a new level.
Take gaming to a new level. And of course, they introduced this lightning fast SSD. We all remember the Mark Cherney overview, getting chilled to our bones. Ray trace graphics,
Ray trace graphics, 4K.
And I think the big thing for me was the DualSense controller. That felt like the big innovation, getting your hands on that, playing Astro's Playroom, feeling the raindrops patter in your hands and stuff. It really did just take things a step up, closer to what you're seeing on like PC performance. Things like Demon's Souls, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, and of course still supporting a lot of like PS4 titles with backwards compatibility.
Well, that's what it was. It felt very much like it was kind of bridging the gap.
Yeah,
like it's not like the jump from PS3 to PS4 where you can't go back. It's kind of you've still got all these titles. They just play better. It's just nice that they play them on this brand new console that doesn't sound like it's going to fucking erupt every single time you turn the thing on.
Oh god, I hated that.
That was the worst. And I can't remember the first games that I played on the PlayStation 5.
I think I could wager a guess. Demon's Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Astrobot, of course. Let me see. You had things like Watch Dogs Legion. You wouldn't have played that.
You must have played early on?
Yeah, it was day one.
Really?
Day one.
Leave it with me.
You also had Assassin's Creed Valhalla in my case, which was
you definitely would have been playing that.
That was my jam.
I can't even remember what I would have been playing around that time.
Well, take your mind back to 2020. I know we've scratched out our heads because it was traumatic for a lot.
I mean, it was traumatic, but it was also
a good year for us.
Arguably, probably the best year of my life because my daughter was born.
Mm-hmm.
I got a brand new games console and I started working from home full time. It's like, I mean,
same.
I'm sorry for all the other shit, but like, this is class.
No, like, same. You know, it's like I have good memories of it, despite the difficulties. But of course, you remember it was the must-have thing because gaming went through a boom again because we're stuck at home, and there was those shortages.
Yeah,
and I never forget seeing people on Facebook. You know, people that you grew up with that are like mums and dads now, and they were having a whinge at people like us for buying it because it's like their 7-year-old can't get their hands on it. And I'm like, what are they going to play?
Yeah.
Nothing there that's decent, that's not 18 rated. Like, sit down. Like, do not buy your child that console down. Day one. But then you look at in terms of gaming memories, we're still in process. They've also went on to launch the PS5 Pro since, where, of course, they've just added the pisser.
Devil May Cry 5.
Devil May Cry 5, of course, yeah, of course. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, already they've delivered like games that I've thoroughly enjoyed, good memories. I think I need time for it to come and to look back at it. But ones like, you know, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, remake, Elden Ring,
yes,
Baldur's Gate, Astrobot, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart. I mean, there's plenty of games on there already. I'm like, even like Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's so many great experiences in PS5. And again, as much as I love my Series X, and we'll talk about that with the recaps thing today, the PS5 still, like Sony's cementing themselves as the default. Hence why you're seeing outrageous prices for like the PS5 Pro. You know?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And we've talked at length about why we bought the Pro.
Because we're idiots.
And we are, but it's also just, it's the default console. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just makes sense. For me, the greatest memory that I have of the PlayStation 5 is when we got it. And it's not the day we got it. It was the day that the order went up. The night that the order went
Pre-orders, up. Yeah.
They showed that video and then Game accidentally put it on for pre-order and you'd message me being like, order it now. And at 1:30 in the morning or something like that, I'm frantically going onto my laptop, opening up Game and buying this console so it comes. And I just remember on the day waiting for it to come through the door. And then at 4:30, this big yellow van pulls up to the house, pops it through the door, and immediately I'm like, I can't even go and set it up. Like the Wii U's still there, so it's just can't even go and play it yet. So it was just a case of like, give it time, then we'll go and do it. So it was just like, and then wife came home with the wee one, and I'm setting the console up upstairs, and they're like talking to me. I'm like, shut up, just let me do this.
Too excited.
Aye, it's so good, so good.
And of course, we can't forget there's a couple of things that we can't forget, but we can talk to one of them, the other one not so much. But in 2023, Sony then went and launched the PlayStation Portal of nowhere, which is a remote play device to link up to your PlayStation 5 and play games over the internet that way. They've since updated it. You can now play PlayStation Plus games without the need of the PlayStation 5, which is great. And the PS5 Pros I've mentioned, and of course, the PlayStation VR 2 as well. Portal, I would say, has been an absolute game changer in terms of the stage of life we're at. For the people that listen to this podcast, if you have a PS5, I can't recommend it enough. Hence why it's, sometimes called the dad station or the parent station. It's like it's hand in hand. The amount of times I'm sitting in the evenings and my wife is watching something on the TV and I've got the Portal and I'm very happy just to do that, because you get your fix and you need that. You need some downtime that both of you do, because you know what it's like when you try to watch something together and maybe you're just like, I just want to watch my shite.
Yeah.
You need that. And I think it's good to have individual things as well, the things you can share. As for the PSVR 2, I mean, I wish Alex was here, but he's been here on the podcast discussing that, how the hardware is arguably the best out there. And again, Alex, thank you if you're listening for all your insight on that. I will say, I still really want a PSVR 2. It's the only Sony thing I
called it recently with Suicide Squad, so just wait. The tea leaves are reading it, because it'll happen soon enough.
Unless there's a Christmas miracle, I highly doubt it. But it's I'm buying a house instead of a PSVR 2. I did say if we didn't get this house, I would go out.
Just don't decorate. Just don't decorate the house and just put the headset on and just look through that.
Yeah, just live in poverty. You'll be absolutely fine. No, I think it's one of those ones where at some point down the line, way down the line at this point, I would absolutely love to experience it, because the hardware looks exceptional, much easier to set up.
That's what I was going to say though. The thing with the hardware is that it could transition console generation.
Yeah.
So like the way that the hardware works at the moment, from what I can gather, it's as good as it's ever going to be for what it is at the moment. So in a few years' time, when the PlayStation 6 finally drops, it could maybe be compatible with it. I don't know. Like, there's no point in putting a PS3, 5, 6. I can't even say it. Words. You know what I mean? But just going back to the Portal, I think that the Portal will prove itself to be one of the most important steps that PlayStation have made in the last few years. Like 5 Pro, it's to be expected from what we know of PlayStation with the PS4 and then the PS4 Pro. Whereas this Portal and what it's doing and the way it's signaling the future for PlayStation and the success that it's had, I think we'll find that it's like a litmus test. It's like, is this what you want? And then, trying it out that way. It's like people talk about fighting games and Capcom fighting games or old fighting games, saying, if we bring this back, will you buy it?
Yeah.
So they've done it with like some of the arcade collections. Like if we give this to you, will you come? If we build it, will you come? That sounds weird.
It's a family show.
But it's just almost like, look, this is the test. What do you think? Yeah. And people are like balls out for it. Do you know what I mean? So it's class. It's a great wee piece of kit.
Absolutely.
I've just got this thing about playing games handheld that really bugs me. And I don't know what it is. It's always bothered me. I can't get on board with the Switch. I love my Switch, but I hate playing it. I hate playing it. Like, I hate having to sit down and play it.
I know what it is, because in fact, I'm going to wager a guess it might be the same thing, because I was playing the Portal, playing every night this week, and the one thing, and it's the same problem the Switch has, it's perfectly flat. It needs the screen. It needs to be slightly angled for better comfort of your hands, because I'm either having to hold it weirdly with my hands, my wrists going up like that. It's not natural. So I would love it if you could have an adjustable handle at the side just to adjust the angle of it. Do that. Absolutely gravy. I mean, the Switch won't do it because it's just going to be a plank of wood. The Switch 2.
It's a plank of wood. Just bash you.
It's like Ed, and Eddie.
This is Metroid Prime 4.
I think that's one thing that does bug me about it, because also it's the glare issue as well.
Yeah, no, I do. I see what you mean. I've always had this issue, and I didn't have it in the past, but I've just always been like, I've got this console and this massive telly that I can play these games on.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, and I don't have the same problem that I don't have all my stuff in the same room that, we sit in. So I don't have to worry about it. If I want to go and play something, I'll just go and play it.
Yeah.
It's agreed upon. But it's for what it's doing. As I say, I think it'll unearth itself as probably one of the most important steps that they've made.
Oh, honestly,
and I think that there's a discussion, and we'll have it in the future about the future of PlayStation and how that looks in terms of handhelds and blah blah blah. But it's just an interesting time. Like I see the future looking more at handhelds rather than the base console. Like it's, I don't want to spoil it. I won't spoil it. I'll keep it to myself. But it's a beautiful thing, and it's interesting to see how far we've come. That we're looking at games on a PlayStation 1, and now we're looking at PlayStation Plus games on the premium package, waiting for PlayStation 1 games to come out.
Yeah,
but
and then playing
all we want,
they look like
dog shit. Look like shit. But all we want, just give us this PlayStation 2 library. Just say, do you know what? Instead of drip feeding us and edging us this whole time, just fucking drop them all. Just give me everything. Give me Simpsons Hit and Run on the PlayStation 5 and give me it now.
Damn licensing, that's what's holding it up.
I don't give a fuck about licensing.
I know.
Herman, you know me. I don't give a fuck about license.
Just a listener of the show, Herman Hulst.
Herman Hulst.
I think, I think it's a great way to finish it on, but I think to wrap up this segment, right, I've got some quick fire questions.
Okay.
All I want is a one word response.
Oh, fuck, right. I'm bad at them.
I know, but we'll went on a bit here. But what's your, in terms of all of those consoles we listed, favourite console, 3, 2, 1, go.
PlayStation 2.
I am the same, PlayStation 2. Favourite controller?
PlayStation 5.
Same, DualSense, PlayStation 5. Favourite PlayStation era?
It's 2.
2, mine's is PS4 because of swagger.
Yeah,
Swagger.
I see what you mean. It's, one word answers.
That's it. And now you can expand a little bit here, of course. What are your hopes for the future of PlayStation? Now that we've had 30 years of highs, lows, everything in between there, mainly highs, I have to say, this legacy they've built, what are your hopes for the future of PlayStation? What do you want to see in 6 and beyond?
Oh, fuck. Right. I don't see... The difference in consoles and generations and stuff is so minimal now that it doesn't matter now. If a game comes out for the PlayStation 5... And what am I trying to say? If games comes out for PlayStation 5 or games comes out for Xbox, they're so minimal in difference that it doesn't matter. So I don't care about third-party games anymore, and I'm learning that more and more. All I want for PlayStation and PlayStation 6 in the future is just innovation.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing this over-the-shoulder nonsense every single time we get a PlayStation exclusive. Just give us something, go back to being weird again. Like, take more risks. And fucking fuck about a bit, man. Like, because the fan base is there.
Yep.
Give them what they want.
Yep. It's funny you said that. I've literally got that written down here. More weirdness and risks.
Yeah.
More single player focus.
Yep.
Less online. Dead simple. They've been burnt this year.
Yeah.
They learn the lesson. Hoping it feels like they've kind of had this close to failure point with this online strategy.
Yeah.
Herman Hulst, I'm hoping, just understands like gamers. I think gamers of a certain age don't want that.
Yeah.
Young gamers do. So obviously there's data there that shows that, you know what, see these Fortnite chasing trends, they must
They're
do
getting
something.
it from different places though. Like,
exactly.
You don't have to target that. It's Xbox, for all their failures, they've done the right thing with purchasing Activision and Call of Duty, because that'll carry them through everything now. And they've got this whole business model that's obviously going to be wrapped around this, but we're seeing it with Ubisoft recently with the kind of closure of XDefiant, wrapping that up and stuff. Like, it's just not long term. Like, you have to hit and you have to hit hard. But it is just, you're right. Just strip it back. There's a place for multiplayer games and make them, but don't make that everything. Don't throw all your eggs in that fucking basket, because it's not worked now. The
games can't be developed quick enough to chase those trends.
It's true.
As we saw with Concord. And I don't want to labour on it because we're on track for a record podcast here.
Oh, God.
But Concord would have been conceptualized at a time when Guardians of the Galaxy was new and fresh.
Yep.
Fortnite also, by the time it comes out, it's been done.
Yeah.
Done to death. Anyhow, I think that wraps everything up, and I've really enjoyed talking about those 30 years of PlayStation. What's your favourite memories? I'd love to hear them. What's your lineage?
I've just told you.
Not yours. The listeners, of course. I'm talking to them. They can't see me. They know that. But of course, I think it's time now for the Pixel Picks Showdown. Where each week we pick a game from our chosen theme and decide which one deserves to live on the hallowed Pixel Picks list, which is our definitive list of the best games we recommend to pass on to the next generation of gamers. Now, last week's theme, I believe it was a free-to-play game with Rocket League deservedly becoming the latest addition to the list. Now, this week's edition, we're debating what best PS3 game we should feature on the Pixel Picks list, and we should do it quickly as well. Now, of course, last week's winner goes last. So, Scott, that is not you this week.
It's you this week.
So let's get to it. Now, I'm going to keep this succinct. Honourable mention for me this week is, I thought about this long and hard, right? Family show. Is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots.
Yes.
So, such a weird-ass game, but I love it for it, right? I think it was, as far as I can allow Kojima to indulge himself in his cinematic ambitions, from a gaming perspective, of course. The cutscenes alone are around, about 8 hours, and the epilogue holds it's a Guinness World Record, it's about 75 minutes or something like that, I think it's at. But I love the game. It's the Beauty and the Beast unit, the Return the Shadow Moses, auto-camoed from the gameplay perspective.
Plus you get Hot Old Snake in it.
Hot Old
when he
Snake.
When he takes his outfit off and he's ripped.
Yeah, and arguably the best way to end the series. Like that. If that ending doesn't get you as a fan of the series, your heart made the stone.
It was so funny because it was changed.
I know.
They were supposed to die.
I know. But I think...
But it's also funny, it's an honourable mention because it's already on the list.
So it is. I didn't even bloody realise, we did do this at pace for this part of it. But anyway, my pick this week, of course, has to be Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. It had to be that game. Of course, it's the ultimate action adventure. I won't talk about the opening as it's been done. But after an impressive first instalment, I thought it was the game that really put Naughty Dog on the path to super blockbuster status. So the game, I think it's so expertly paced with the story. That's not Fred Astaire, that's my dog. It's a total package, and of course a great example of how greatness can be achieved on rails in a more linear fashion, before things strive to be open world daft. I think it's cool that it is just a linear story, a linear tale. It's taking you right through happy days, and just a tale of joining Drake on that quest to find Shambhala, the rich cast of characters that you had there. I think the game that I think, next to The Last of Us, I think this was one that really did help save the PlayStation 3, and the honourable mention included.
Yeah.
As, games that you wanted to play and you couldn't elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, at least on that hardcore, it appealed to the hardcore and the casuals. So,
yeah. Uncharted
2 has to be my pick. It was just one that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I was so happy I had a PS3 to experience it on. So yeah, that's my pick. Scott, what about you?
Similarly to yourself, to be honest with you, I went down the same route.
Mm-hmm.
Had thought about Metal Gear Solid 4 as an honourable mention because I'll give that its flowers every single day.
Absolutely.
But it's on the list. So if it wasn't on the list, it would be the choice I would make for this week, and I would fight it tooth and bloody nail. I went also down the same route of Uncharted as well. I kind of thought, those games you think about a PlayStation 3, it's the Uncharted series you're thinking about.
Yeah.
But it's not a series of games that I'm like yearning for. And I kind of think 4 is the best one. So, which, we can have that conversation when it's not a 15-year podcast.
That's an excellent game.
Excellent game. The choice that I made for this week was actually Red Dead Redemption.
Right, okay.
I thought about Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, the game that never ends, every single console, like Skyrim. But I just kind of thought, for what it was trying to do, and for at the time, it was enormous.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a
I'm going to murder that dog.
It was just such a time, and it like the story, John, blah blah blah. It was just an incredible tale. it took everything that you know about Grand Theft Auto and, you know, changed the game on it. Where is he? Yeah. Come say hello to you.
Honest to God.
Come say hello to
you.
How
many episodes is that now? 37? It's taken 37 episodes for him to absolutely ruin the audio fidelity.
He's fine. He's
honest
fine.
To God.
But yeah, I just think that the story that it takes you on, the world that it builds, and everything that it does in between is perfect anyway. And it is the game that I think about when I think about the PlayStation 3. So there you go.
We have descended into absolute chaos here. I'm hoping listeners are enjoying this. We do our best to create a polished show, but sometimes a Cocker Spaniel comes in and has different ideas.
I see you.
What I will say, right, and I do, like, you mentioned an absolute all-timer there, Red Dead Redemption. I feel bad. I probably should have specified probably a PlayStation 3 exclusive.
Oh, you bastard! Then it's Uncharted 2. There you go.
There we go.
And I would say the exact same thing. To be honest with you, is that I think that it takes what Uncharted 1 does and does even more with it. The set pieces, the characters, everything in between is phenomenal. I'm trying to hold his tail so it's not like battering off this table, but
I'm hitting the table as well, like loading my hand, like it's
just a beautiful, beautiful game, and it's you know, oh my God,
Scott, you wore him.
It is just an incredible experience and deserves its flowers on the list. So Uncharted 2 is the winner.
Well done to Naughty Dog. You've got another one on this list, man. You make a habit of it. But that, of course, that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. So thank you once again for joining us. And if you like what you hear and enjoy the podcast, leave a wee 5-star review. That helps us out, makes a huge difference. But of course, this week, please, please, please share. Tell your pals. If you see it on Blue Sky or whatnot, just repost it. Help us spread the good word. And we've got some really, really cool stuff lined up for you over the festive period. Through the festive period, might I add. There will be no 2-week skies for this podcast. And of course, Scott, test time. Where can people find you online if they want to engage with you?
Find me on Blue Sky at llamaman.bsky.social.
And one, people, and one. Of course, you can find me at carmelite.bsky.social. Thank you to our producer and music man, the talented and handsome Mr. Sean Murray.
Good luck editing this.
Yeah,
brother.
Apologise. Listen, Sean's been doing some cool things in the background, and I'm thinking 2025, the music man might be able to tell us more about it himself. We shall see. Got some cool plans there. But of course, you can listen to the next episode on all major podcast platforms and follow us on Blue Sky at pixelparents.bsky.social. And of course, write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. The time to wrap things up. I'll just add as well. Just don't podcast with the dog about. Just don't do it.
No, do it. I think this should be normal for everyone.
This is the most chaotic closing to a podcast you'll ever hear. So yeah, until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and thanks for listening.
Enjoy your life and stuff.